Hello and welcome to the program. Our today's lecture is self-regulation, and the objectives set for today's lecture are to understand the concept and meaning of self-regulation, to know about principles of self-regulation, to understand different components of self-regulation, to get acquainted with different types of self-regulation, to know about importance of self-regulation, to go through various strategies of self-regulation, to understand the importance of self-regulation in classroom. First of all, let's have a brief introduction. Self-regulation is defined as the mental processes we use to control our minds, functions, states and inner processes, or self-regulation may be defined as control over oneself. It may involve control over our thoughts, emotions, impulses, appetites, or task performance. In psychology, self-regulation has come to mean regulation by self, not just of the self. Psychologists study self-regulation because it provides insight into why we do the things we do. Self-regulation plays a role in alcoholism, smoking, drug addiction, eating disorders, excessive spending, crime, emotional dysregulation, underachievement, procrastination, sexual behavior, and more. Psychologists also believe that self-regulation is a huge part of what the self is. Along with things like self-concept and personality traits, it makes up who we are at the core. This makes self-regulation a very important process to understand, as we can use insights from self-regulation research to more easily control our behavior. Self-regulation involves taking a pause between a feeling and an action, taking the time to think things through, make a plan, wait patiently. Children often struggle with these behaviors, and adults may as well. Now let's have a look over the concept and meaning of self-regulation. Self-regulation is essentially a matter of altering one's responses. Self-regulation refers to the development of children's ability to follow everyday customs and valued norms embraced and prescribed by their parents or caretakers and others. Self-regulation is a vital constituent of socialization process, a broad construct. Self-regulation encompasses a diverse set of behaviors such as compliance, the ability to delay actions when appropriate, and modulation of emotions, motor and vocal activities as suitable to norm-based contexts. The self in self-regulation is an essential feature and involves a sentient self, one that recognizes and understands the reason for standards and evaluates one's own actions in relation to others' feelings and needs. Thus, the hallmark of self-regulation is the ability to act in accordance with various family and social values in the absence of external monitors, across a variety of situations, but neither slavishly nor mindlessly. Some important definitions of self-regulation are: self-regulation refers to the self-directive processes through which learners transform their mental abilities into task-related skills. Self-regulation is the process of continuously monitoring progress towards a goal, checking outcomes, and redirecting unsuccessful efforts. Self-regulation can be defined as the whole system of standards, thoughts, processes, and actions that guide people's behavior towards desired end states. Self-regulation can be seen as an internal set of rules that people use to determine their decisions. Self-regulation influences how people behave and think about their actions. Self-regulation is the ability to control one's behavior, emotions, and thoughts in the pursuit of long-term goals. Self-regulation is focus of the individual's capacity to monitor and modify behavior, cognition and affect, and sometimes the individual environment in order to achieve a goal. Thus, self-regulation is the conscious or non-conscious processes by which people regulate their thoughts, emotions, attention, behavior and impulses. People generate thoughts, feelings and actions and adapt those to the attainment of personal goals. Now let us move towards the principles of self-regulation. Number 1. Self-regulation serves as the foundation for lifelong functioning across a wide range of domains, from mental health and emotional well-being to academic achievement, physical health and socio-economic success. It has also proven responsive to intervention, making it a powerful target for change. Number 2, self-regulation is defined from an applied perspective as an act of managing cognition and emotion to enable goal-directed actions such as organizing behavior, controlling impulses and solving problems constructively. Number 3, self-regulation enactment is influenced by a combination of individual and external factors including biology, skills, motivation, caregiver support and environmental context. These factors interact with one another to support self-regulation and create opportunities for intervention. Number 4, self-regulation can be strengthened and taught like literacy, with focused attention, support and practice, opportunities provided across contexts. Skills that are not developed early can be acquired later, with multiple opportunities for intervention. Number 5, development of self-regulation is dependent on co-regulation, provided by parents or other caregiving adults through warm and responsive interactions in which support, coaching and modeling are provided to facilitate a child's ability to understand, express and modulate thoughts, feelings and behavior. Number 6, self-regulation can be disrupted by prolonged or pronounced stress and adversity, including poverty and trauma experiences. Although manageable, stress may build coping skills. Stress that overwhelms children, skills or support can create toxic effects that can negatively impact development and produce long-term changes in neurobiology. Number 7, self-regulation develops over an extended period from birth through young adulthood and beyond. There are 2 clear developmental periods which self-regulation skills increase dramatically due to underlying neurobiological changes: early childhood and adolescence, suggesting particular opportunities for intervention. Self-regulation is desirable because of the effects that it has on educational and behavioral outcomes. The different components of self-regulation are: Number 1, standards. Self-standards are the goals an individual set for themselves and attempts to reach in order to be successful at something. Some examples could be getting a better job or developing more self-confidence through sports. The idea behind self-standards is that people may not always succeed, but they can still go forward even if they fail, because it will make them try their hardest to keep trying. Number 1, personal standards are what someone sets for themselves as that they aim to accomplish throughout self-regulation. Number 2 is outcome standard, are what someone wants to accomplish and self-standards they aim for. Number 2 is motivation. It is an essential self-regulatory factor. Motivation is the self-standards that keep self-regulation alive and motivate people to self-regulate their self-efficacy beliefs. Motivational forces can come from 3 different levels. Consciousness means knowledge about one's behavior, preconscious emotions that influence cognitive processes and subconscious automatic components. Number third is monitoring. It is also known as introspection, is how one becomes aware of one's psychological state or processes. Monitoring includes attention to internal states and processes that influence behavior, such as motivation and emotions. It allows one to recognize errors in performance and adjust one's actions accordingly. Self-monitoring consists of three subcomponents: self-awareness, self-direction, and self-evaluation. Number third is willpower. The willpower component in self-regulation is when people can handle their impulses and control their feelings to reach the goal objective they want to achieve. People use willpower to avoid things that society deems as bad or wrong. Now let us move towards the types of self-regulation. Number one, behavioral self-regulation. It is an ability to manage our energy, emotions, attentions, and behavior in ways that are socially acceptable and help us to achieve our goals. Our ability to regulate or manage our behavior allows us to focus when there are distractions, pay attention to the most important information, take turns, wait, follow rules, adapt to new situations, do what is socially expected, suppress outbursts of anger, and take on challenges. Behavior regulation develops gradually during childhood. This process doesn't happen overnight, and some children are able to cope with daily stresses more easily than others. Number two, emotional self-regulation. Emotional self-regulation or emotion regulation is the ability to respond to the ongoing demands of experience with the range of emotions in the manner that is socially tolerable and sufficiently flexible to permit spontaneous reactions, as well as the ability to delay spontaneous reactions as needed. It can also be defined as extrinsic and intrinsic processes responsible for monitoring, evaluating, and modifying emotional reactions. Emotional self-regulation belongs to the broader set of emotion regulation processes, which includes both the regulation of one's own feelings and the regulation of other people's feelings. Number third is cognitive self-regulation. Cognitive self-regulation involves the development of a set of constructive behaviors that affect one's use of cognitive abilities to integrate learning processes. These processes are planned and adapted to support the pursuit of personal goals in changing environments. It involves the control of various mental strategies for better cognitive performance. It is the regulation of one's own thinking processes, and thus can fall in the domain of metacognition. Now, what is the importance of self-regulation? Self-regulation involves taking a pause between a feeling and an action, taking the time to think things through, make a plan, wait patiently. Children often struggle with these behaviors, and adults may as well. Lack of self-regulation can cause problems in almost every aspect of life. Children with lack of self-regulation may get frustrated and could be unpopular among peers and may face many other problems at school. An adult with poor self-regulation skills may lack self-confidence and self-esteem and have trouble handling stress and frustration. Often this might result in anger or anxiety. In more severe cases, it can even lead to being diagnosed with mental health condition. Self-regulation allows you to act in accordance with your deeply held values or social conscience and to express yourself appropriately. If you value academic achievement, it will allow you to study instead of slack off before a test. If you value helping others, it will allow you to help a co-worker with a project, even if you are a tight deadline yourself. In its most basic form, self-regulation allows us to be more resilient and bounce back from failure while also staying calm under pressure. Researchers have found that self-regulation skills are tied to a range of positive health outcomes. This includes better resilience to stress, increased happiness, and better overall well-being. Besides this, there are other reasons for importance of self-regulation. Number one, it is increasingly important that students are able to proactively evaluate and improve upon their own learning. In a rapidly changing world, successful individuals must be lifelong learners who are metacognitive about and able to effectively evaluate their learning. Within the education system, students without the ability to focus their attention and maintain perseverance will be constantly pulled left and right to their immediate impulses. While some students may find poor study conditions, confusing lessons, or difficult text to be insurmountable obstacles, self-regulation allows learners to navigate these conditions by discovering solutions that work. In addition to developing personal responsibility about learning, self-regulation also solidifies the content of learning. Self-regulation practices improve the encoding of knowledge and skills in memory, especially in reading, comprehension, and writing. Research has also identified that self-regulation strategies are associated with increased students' effort and motivation, improved scores on standardized tests, and general preparedness for class. Now, what are the effective strategies of self-regulation? Self-regulation provides individuals the necessary means to achieve goals which can either arise from their own interests or societal demands. In both cases, achieving goals will enable individuals to experience self-fulfillment and success. Self-regulatory systems also maintain our actions within the limits of acceptable as well as restrain from unwanted behaviors. The various strategies for boosting self-regulation are mindfulness. Mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. It can be an effective tool to help regulate our emotions. It encourages people to observe the contents of their mind and allow great insight. It encourages people their emotional experiences without trying to change them. By practicing mindfulness and being mindful when interacting with children, they learn attitudes such as patience, non-judging, accepting, and kindness. Number 2, cognitive reappraisals. Cognitive reappraisal or cognitive reframing is another strategy that can be used to improve self-regulation abilities. This strategy involves changing thought patterns. Specifically, cognitive reappraisals involve reinterpreting a situation in order to change the emotional response to it. Cognitive reappraisal is an antecedent-focused emotion regulation strategy occurring in the early stages of the experience of the emotion. Number 3 is emotional suppression. Suppression happens when you actively push uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, or memories out of your consciousness. Emotional suppression is a type of emotional regulation strategy that is used to try to and make uncomfortable, overwhelming thoughts and feelings more manageably. Researchers have found that emotion suppression is useful when people want to alter their emotion expressive behavior, but it fails to provide subjective relief to the experience of negative emotions and comes with a substantial cost to cognition, physiology, and relationship functioning. Next is goal setting. Goal setting is an integral component of self-regulation. Setting goal is a generic strategy that can be applied to various domains. Effective goal setting requires that people set a long-term goal, break into short-term attainable sub-goals, monitor progress and assess capabilities, adjust the strategy and goal as needed, and set a new goal when the present one is attained. Next is self-monitoring. Self-monitoring is a strategy that teaches individuals to self-assess their behavior and record the results. Though it does not create new skills or knowledge, self-monitoring does increase or decrease the frequency, intensity, or duration of existing behavior. Self-monitoring is the process of having individuals record data regarding their own behavior for the changing purpose of changing its rate. It is a personality trait that involves the ability to monitor and regulate self-presentations, emotions, and behaviors in response to social environments and situations. Next is self-instruction. Another strategy associated with self-regulation is self-instruction, also referred to as self-talk or self-statements, in which students learn to talk themselves through a task or activity. Self-instruction can be defined as the ability of one to cognitively plan, organize, direct, reinforce, and evaluate one's own independent learning without a teacher's prompting. Self-instruction intervention involves the use of self-induced statements to direct or control behavior. Self-instruction strategies are powerful, flexible, and potentially quite effective because it guides thinking. It supports metacognitive control by reinforcing plans and strategies and motivational focus. It is very important for emotional control. Next is self-reinforcement. Self-reinforcement is a process whereby individuals control their own behavior by rewarding themselves when a certain standard of performance has been attained or surpassed. It occurs when individuals select a reinforcer and reward themselves by reaching or exceeding a criterion. Self-reinforcement produces substantial improvement in performance. The strategy actively involves students in their learning environment. There are 4 steps in teaching students how to reinforce. First, determine standards and set evaluative criteria for work. Number 2, select a reinforcer to be earned. Number 3, evaluate performance to determine whether a criterion was met. And number 4, self-administer the reinforcer. Now, what is the importance of self-regulation in classroom? The concept of self-regulation does not just apply to a child's emotional health. It also influences a child's cognitive ability. The ability of children to self-regulate their feelings and actions in preschool is related to their math and literacy abilities in kindergarten, which suggest curricula intended to help children develop self-regulation skills and improve early academic abilities may be the most successful tool in helping children make significant progress in school. The importance of self-regulation can be understood through following points. Number 1, a lack of self-regulation can seriously hinder a child's learning capabilities and overall classroom environment. If children do not learn to self-regulate their listening and attention skills, they will either miss part of lesson or inadequately learn the material. Teachers also run out of energy if many of the kids in their class cannot regulate their behavior, which leaves teachers little energy for successfully teaching academic lessons and skills. Self-regulation helps the students to behave in socially acceptable and gives child the ability to sit and listen in the classroom. It helps children to make friends because self-regulation gives them the ability to take turns in games and conversation, share toys, and express emotions in appropriate ways. It helps them to become more independent because self-regulation gives the child the ability to make appropriate decisions about behavior and learn how to behave in new situations with less guidance from you. Now, dear students, let us conclude. Self-regulation is a system of conscious personal management that involves the process of guiding one's own thoughts, behaviors, and feelings to reach goals. Self-regulation consists of several states, and individuals must function as contributors to their own motivation, behavior, and development within a network of reciprocally interacting influences. Roy Baumeister, one of the leading social psychologists who have studied self-regulation, claims it has four components: standards of desirable behavior, motivation to meet standards, monitoring of situation, and thoughts that precede breaking said standards, and lastly, willpower. These four components interact to determine our self-regulatory activity at any given moment. According to self-regulation, our behavior is determined by our personal standards of good behavior, our motivation to meet those standards, the degree to which we are consciously aware of our circumstances and our actions, and the extent of our willpower to resist temptation and choose the best path. Self-regulation, or the extent of an individual's ability to influence or control his or her own emotions and impulses, is a vital piece of emotional intelligence. An individual's level of motivation to succeed in his endeavors is directly related to his performance. Even if he has the best of the intentions, well-laid plans, and extraordinary willpower, he will likely fail if he is not motivated to regulate his behavior and avoid the temptation to slack off or set his goals aside for another day. The more motivated we are to achieve our goals, the more capable we are to thrive towards them. This impacts our well-being by filling us with a sense of purpose, competence, and self-esteem, especially when we are able to meet our goals. Dear student, this was all about today's lecture. Hope you understood well. Thank you.